Welcome to today's webinar, courtesy of the Kentucky Small Business Development Center in Louisville. Discover no-cost, valuable business services to help you thrive, whether starting your entrepreneurial journey or scaling your existing business. We have the resources and expertise to help you succeed. For more information, please visit our website or text 502-977-5800. Thank you for joining us today. Feel free to use the chat feature to ask questions or engage with our speaker. Let's get started.
Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to another Toolkit Tuesday. I'm Dave Ecken. I'm the director here at the Louisville Small Business Development Center. As always, I'm joined with my good friend and coworker, Janet Flaw. How are you, Janet?
I'm doing good. It's not as cold as it was yesterday, not as scary
No,
as it was yesterday, so I'm good. I'm
no,
good.
it's not, but I did enjoy the snow.
Yeah.
So I love a good, dark, cold, winter day. That's my whole thing, So before we dive in here with our guest, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Toolkit Tuesday. We bring in experts that you can learn from and use what they know for, right away at the end of the day. Every week we kind of dig into something special. A little bit about us here in Louisville. Our team here, we focus on helping entrepreneurs start and grow their businesses. And one of the things we really dive in deep in is helping you find capital for your business. That's one of our core skill sets. And part of that today is what we're going to talk about is putting together a business plan for financing. But before we jump into that, let's make sure everybody can see and hear, so I can kind of see you guys popping in. But if you wouldn't mind looking at the bottom of the screen, you should see the toolbar down there. If you don't, just hover over it with your cursor and it should pop right up. And if you wouldn't mind just saying hello and tell us your name and where you're joining from, you can see and hear me pretty good. We always have something go wrong here and there. I know I can see you popping in, but I just want to make sure you're there. So let's see. It's Claire. Hey, Rolanda from Lexington. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us today. Hi, Amanada. Thanks for reaching out to me yesterday. Hi, Tom. Santa Monica. Wow, you get the distance award today. Definitely. Unless it's Santa Monica, Indiana. I doubt that. So, all right, can see everybody kind of popping in. Okay, so, well, we've been kind of on a tear here lately about, financing businesses, things, with the changes in the SBA, the government shutdown, things are a little bit different, a little bit harder. So I thought we should focus in on a little bit some of your prep, getting your plan together and get ready to take that to the bank or a lending source. So I've invited my good friend and also co-worker Claire Bridges, who is one of our top business coaches here at the Louisville Small Business Development Center, to come in and share some of the things that she's learned and what she shares with her clients on how she helps them find financing for the business. And over the years, I think in the last 3 years, I think we collectively have probably helped, I don't know, I think maybe 20 million in loans and equity over the last few years. So we're pretty good at what we do. So please reach out to us. You can go to KentuckySBDC.com/Louisville and get on our calendars. We'd be happy to help you. So that being said, Claire, say hello.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to be on Toolkit Tuesday, and we'll be talking about business plans today.
My favorite subject.
I'll get my slides running up here, and then we will get started.
Yeah. And as we go forward, if you have any questions or comments, just put them in the chat, and we will put a break on everything and get those answered for you. Or we'll do it at the end, whatever. But if it's something kind of burning, just raise your hand and we'll get it answered, because this is all about you and your business and making sure that you can get the money you need to start your business, or even grow your business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm happy to kind of stop and chat through things as we go today. Please feel free to ask questions, and scenarios that we can kind of dig into are even better, because I think everyone can learn from that.
Yeah.
So today we're gonna, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Specific scenarios are good too. So if you have a specific question about your specific situation, this is a good time to throw that out there and get some feedback on that.
Yeah, and then I think we already covered what the SBDC does this morning. So we're gonna continue on to what is a business plan. So I probably talk about business plans in every single one of my coaching sessions. Whether it's eventually you will write a business plan, or have you written a business plan before, or will you send me your business plan, so on and so forth. It's a hot topic and it's needed for so many different things. So obviously, first and foremost, you want to use it as a document, as a tool for your business to be able to shape and grow and make plans and understand the operations and the ins and outs of what's happening within your business. So that's obviously the number one most important reason to have a business plan. You can also take pieces from a business plan and then make it into a sales tool. You can use the language that you've created to then put on social media or on your website or anything like that. I do want to emphasize that it is a living document and it evolves over time. So whenever I'm having folks prepare business plans or work on a section of a business plan, it never is finished, and so it never has to be perfect. I think that's where folks get scared, is that they'll start on the business plan and then it will kind of get a bit overwhelming because it's a lot of information. And then they feel like it's not good enough, or it's not the right thing, or not saying the right answer, right? But there is no right answer in a business plan. You just have to keep working on it continuously. And then there are different business plans for different purposes. So what Dave was saying earlier, we focus on financing and funding for folks. And so a lot of this presentation today will talk about the business plan to use when you're applying for funding at a bank, or through some type of lending institution. But there are different business plans for everything. And so if you may come across a different business plan template and think, well, that's not what Claire said, but I promise you there's different templates out there, and they can be used for lots of fantastic stuff and different tools and strategies. So why do you need the business plan? The first and foremost is that it will help you run your business and make informed decisions and actionable steps to move forward and grow. It's kind of like a roadmap to success. And then, like I said, it's information, and that's really the only way we can make a decision besides just running with what our gut says, right? The different components of a business plan are laid out here. And so, if you're going through the big template, there'll be all these sections in the business plan. And that's kind of really high level overviews of everything. But what we like to do at the SBDC is really get into the details with you and kind of work on the daily grind, the day-to-day stuff that you all are doing in your businesses every day, to make your livelihoods. And so we want to really show that on the business plan, and how can we tell that story to a possible funder. So these are the larger topics that we want to cover. And these may seem a little bit abstract, but what I hope to do as a business coach and in my work with my clients is to help get it as precise as possible at the end of the day. Like I said, there's a few different templates, so I'll show you a few here, but then we'll really get into the details of that traditional business plan, which is listed here at the bottom. So there's a business model canvas. There's a one-page business plan. You could use a pitch deck. It's kind of another version of a business plan. And then there's the traditional business plan. There's all sorts of templates for any of these online. If you Google business model canvas template, you'll get something to pop up for you. And again, there's no right or wrong way or version of a business plan. It's just how best you can use it to benefit your business and your company. This may be familiar to some folks. I know that lots of people like to use this business model canvas as kind of a starting point if you're feeling stuck or frozen in getting started writing your business plan. I also know some other business organizations around town use this plan in particular just to get folks started thinking about their business ideas and kind of how it's going to come to life. So you may have encountered this somewhere along the way as already. It's a good way to explore the canvas of your business, and then it's good for kind of processing through your ideas, kind of understanding, if you have this light bulb moment of, oh, I should open this business, right? This will be a great exercise to use to then kind of lay it out and figure out, where to start and where to get it all organized. It's great for planning and organizing ideas, but it's not going to help you in terms of like applying for funding. It's not quite enough information. It's not comprehensive enough to show like, I know everything there is to know about this business, and I'm going to tell it to you here. This is a good first step planning piece. Here's an example of a one-page business plan. Again, there's many templates out there for a one-page business plan. I chose this one in particular because I think it's really clear and concise. It's like a nice touch point that you could use maybe throughout your planning year. If you wanted to check in on this quarterly and make updates or kind of check yourself to say, okay, have I been doing all my marketing activities that I've listed here? Did we add another sales channel to our streams of revenue? What is our identity and what problem are we solving for the market? And in particular, I super like the projected milestones because you can put, by April of 2026, I will have gained 50 new customers, or by second quarter of 2026, I want to have my new website up and running and live on the internet. Different things like that. So you can kind of hold yourself accountable to those goals that you're setting and then check back in. It's a good roadmap, and it's good to kind of just keep updating, keep checking in on yourself with something like this. That is a kind of a big picture view of everything. A pitch deck is great also. So lots of folks that I talk to will come in and say, yeah, I have a business plan, and then they'll send me these slides like a pitch deck. And so this is great when you're needing to find investors, when you're needing to do some really intense like marketing strategies, and trying to like gain traction and interest in your business and your business idea if you haven't gotten started making sales yet. It's a super awesome marketing tool. It can then be reused for many different purposes. You could make a social media post about one of these slides, or you could make a little about section on your website for one of these slides. And it's a way to kind of use all the information that you've researched and, dug into to then repurpose on the public facing side. This might be something that you would write after you write the traditional business plan, because that traditional business plan that we're going to really focus on today is everything you could possibly need for your business. And so then you can pull all the great, talking points and specialty areas of your business to then put into a pitch deck. And then lastly, what we're going to focus on today is that traditional business plan. And when we say that, we mean what you would use to apply for funding. So when you're applying for a bank loan, you'll need to provide the lender a business plan of this type, financial projections, various personal financial statements, tax returns, and some other bank-specific documents. But this is the bulk of the work. And if you don't have a plan, if you haven't kind of covered all the topics, this is going to open up what you need to focus on, right? You may be able to write some of these very quickly and easily, and then some of them you're going to really stop and struggle with, and that's very normal. And that's why we're here to kind of ask further questions for you to think about, give you some, nudges forward. What if you talk about this? Tell me about, why you're better than the competitor, so on and so forth. And then there'll be other things that you'll have to go out and research and then come back and tell us about and put it in the business plan. So I think this is just a really good and safe practice for everyone to do no matter what, if you're opening a business, because it's going to kind of open up your blind spots, make you kind of think wider than you have before, no matter what. So we're going to go through each of these sections, and I'll show you some examples in here and then just kind of talk about how we work on that together. First is the executive summary. It's just a couple pages of highlights from the rest of the document. It's kind of pulling out the major talking points and the major pieces that you need everyone to kind of contextualize in order to understand the big picture. It needs to be really strong because lenders and investors kind of quickly view this section of the business plan to get a quick take on, okay, is this viable? Is this like worth delving into for my time, and then they can kind of also take a quick snap at the financials that are listed in the executive summary, or maybe they read the executive summary and then they flip to the end to look at those financial projections that we put together, and kind of get a good big overall picture before they get into the details. So this really needs to be very strong. I have at the bottom, write this last, because you will have taken the time to have all this language written out in the bulk of the narrative later in the business plan. So you'll just be able to pull out the highlights and main talking points to put in the executive summary. And then it'll just be kind of a quicker process at the end. Then we move on to these larger pieces in the business plan. First is the summary of the business. So this is where we're just telling everything that you know about your business currently that's already operating, or the business that you want to start up. And we'll go into each of these sections, but this is kind of your time to shine. This is where you want to show off the great ideas that you have. Maybe you've got some awesome products and services lined up, and you want them to shine in these next sections. So let me double check my slides here. Okay, sorry about that. Make sure they're in the right order. There's the statement of purpose, which is just stating why you're using this business plan. What's your intention? If you're applying for funding, you would list, Main Street XYZ company is applying for $50,000 to be used for capital, working capital, inventory, and renovations. So why are you writing the business plan, and what's the end goal here? Describing your mission statement and the description of the business so everyone knows what exactly you're going to be doing. And then the proposed location, very important. We want to talk about, strategy here. So not just saying, oh, I want to be, in South Louisville. Well, why do you want to be in South Louisville? How does it tie into your target market? Is there parking nearby? Are you more focused on the foot traffic that's going to be coming by? And based on your target market, those folks typically tend to come by this certain area at certain times of day where they would need to utilize your business? So really getting down into the details of your proposed location. The operating agreement, if you are going into business with a partner, then you will want to prepare an operating agreement, which is an additional document, and the bank will most often always ask for that document as well if you're in business with a partner or multiple partners. Then listing your products and services offered. So I like to describe this as like the menu of your business. So when you walk in as a customer, like what am I being offered here? What can I buy? What service can I receive here? So if you are in the food business, you do want to list your menu here and pricing and understand, are you the fast casual? Are you fine dining? Are you an ethnic food or fare? So understanding what the offering is there. And then if you're offering services as opposed to products or goods, what are those options? And those can be a little bit trickier for folks to describe, I find, especially folks in like the kind of consulting world or contracting world. It's needed to do some deeper digging into those services offered. Strategic alliances are kind of your broader view of who are you doing business with while you're in business. So who are your vendors? Who are the folks that you need to have in place to keep your business open, operating, lights on, supplies in house, so on and so forth. And we want specific names there. Like we want to know where you're ordering your paper goods if you're a restaurant that serves to-go food, right? So this just makes it more real for a lender to understand, okay, they've got their plan in place. They already know who they're going to be ordering from. They already know the prices for the inventory that they're going to need to order. They already know how much they're going to need from month to month, right? We want to have all of those pieces very well laid out before going to a bank. Also, to kind of show your due diligence and research is all of the operational and regulatory items that you would need. So you want to kind of lay out, I will need this certification. I will need this permit from the city. I will need this license to operate this type of equipment. I will need a valid driver's license for all employees delivering in trucks, so on and so forth. And then show what that document is, what the regulatory item is, and your progress on receiving that document. Have you applied? Are you waiting to apply until a certain date? Are you waiting on approval and it should come within the next 2 weeks or 6 months? Because that also shows that you are very dedicated to opening the business. You're on track. You're getting everything done in a timely manner. Some of those things are a question mark for folks in the beginning. So there's many times when I'll talk to folks and we'll get to this section and they'll not know the answer yet, right? So, okay, well, let's do some homework then on finding out what we need to have a barbershop in Louisville. So what type of certifications, permits, and inspections need to happen on the public facing side before I can offer my business and services to the public. And so that's a good way to, again, check those blind spots. If you don't know what you need, this is going to kind of do a double check of everything there. The next broad piece of the business plan is your marketing plan. And I cannot stress enough how important this is. We always have to wear multiple hats as business owners. So while yes, you have to be the expert in your field, you have to, know your stuff about the industry that you're in. You also have to be the HR person. You also have to be the marketing person. You also likely have to be the bookkeeper. So if marketing, I say that because if marketing is not your strong suit, this might take some time. We need to get into some like solid hands-on action items that you will be doing over and over again for your marketing to be able to prove that you are getting yourself out there enough. This goes in first to the kind of background research of your industry and the business that you're in. So we've got a lot of tools at SBDC that we can use to help you with this. We're partnered with the University of Kentucky, and so we have access to lots of great like industry resources, databases that can pull statistics and data around the industry that you're going into. And that helps us plan, right? We can look at that data and then kind of compare it to your action plan and say, does this line up with the industry standard? Or, oh, you should probably be budgeting this much for your inventory or goods or so on. So all of that data is super, super important and very helpful when you're getting started. And so we will help you to do that market research, industry research. You also want to make sure you have a very defined target market. So not only do, if you're a restaurant, for example, I use these restaurant examples all the time, but if you're a restaurant, you don't want to say anyone who likes good food is going to want to eat at my restaurant. That's not specific enough, right? You want to say that I'm open and I'm based in the downtown area and I'm one of only 5 places open for lunch in my block or in my couple blocks. And so I serve a very specific population of folks that are working in downtown Louisville in these hours, right? And so who are the folks that are working in these hours that then have the money to spend out on lunch while they're downtown? It's not going to be everyone, it's only going to be some folks, right? And so you really need to get into details on who exactly your customer is. A great way to do this is kind of think of like an avatar, make up a couple characters and think through, oh, so and so is 35 years old and they work from home 2 days a week and they go to the office 2 days and then it's a flex day and they have little kids and so they're usually busy and running out the door in the morning and don't have time to pack their lunch. That might be a great person to make as your target market, right? Just really get into those details of who it is coming through your door. And if you don't have that answer yet, that might mean, oh, you need to do a little bit more upfront research or kind of market research, see who wants to buy your product, see what speaks to folks when you're maybe doing a pop-up or out selling word of mouth or something like that before you get started. Understanding your competition, very, very important. This is going to help you leverage yourself into being successful. So there's some great tools and templates that we have to kind of work through what competition is in the area, if it's direct competition or maybe just indirect. What are their sales channels? What are your sales channels? How broad is their reach? Do they talk about, are they focused on just the Louisville area on in-person sales, or do they sell online, which makes it a much broader audience? How do you plan to sell? So on and so forth. Understanding their pricing and reasoning behind that, and then how are you going to competitively price alongside your competitors? All very, very important. And then lastly, your promotional advertising plan. All of this is going to influence how you reach your target market. So if your customers are, certain age ranges, they may use social media more than others, or other folks may be Googling your type of service to find out who offers this in town. So you need to know where you need to pop up, whether that's having a strong SEO, search engine optimization, having a plan around that, whether that's having a strong social media presence and growing that, whether it's being out and about in person and making personal connections to do word of mouth sales, kind of talking about those action plans and how you're going to find customers and make sales. And it's going to be a combination of multiple things. So, you can't just say, yes, we'll have a Facebook and Instagram page and post once a day. That's just not quite enough to kind of show your activity in the marketing area. So we'll make some plans around what to do for your marketing activities. And then lastly is the management plan. And this is really big because this is just showing the day-to-day operations of your business. How is it going to work? Who is in charge of what, right? One very important piece to a lender is your related work experience. So one, what experience do you have in the industry that you're going into or in the type of business that you're opening? So providing a resume, work history, different projects that you've worked on or different roles that you've had within your work history. How do they relate to what you're doing now? And then also just what other experiences do you have that may help you? Have you ever been a manager before? Have you ever been responsible for a budget before? Have you ever had to do project planning before? Any of those types of things can tie back into the work experience you need to run a business. And then the personnel needed. So you do wear many hats at the beginning, depending on the nature of your business and the industry that you're in, will depend on how many employees that you need. Maybe you're in the type of business that is, just you for a few years, and then maybe you might hire one part-time administrative person. Or maybe you're in a larger operation like a store or something where you need many employees to be able to operate efficiently every day. So explaining that, and then we're going to get into the most detail of thinking through, your staffing plans and how many staff do you need to have for each shift and for each day open, and how much you're going to pay that staff, thinking through, and this will help you create then your operating budget. Thinking through salaries for managers, upper level management, or owners. And then the advisory board are those folks that are kind of there to support you. So while you are running the business operation, who are you going to talk to about bookkeeping or accounting practices? Who are you checking in with in terms of legal advice? What industry expert can you use as a mentor, something to make sure that you can have a really good sounding board for whenever issues or struggles come up in the day-to-day operations. I think this piece shines the most to a lender when they can tell that you're ready or not. If you don't have like a plan of how one day or one week is going to be run in your business, you're not ready to apply for funding. And we're here to say those tough love statements to you, to say, okay, let's think through this a little bit more, right? Like, what realistically needs to happen in a day here to turn the cycle and start anew the next day? And who needs to be doing those things? So we'll get very, very detailed in these processes so that it looks like a real story. It's going to be a real life business when you get off of paper. Lastly, and this is, I almost think of these as two separate things. So the business plan and then financial plans. We work a ton to create financial projections for your business plan. If you're a startup business, we'll go through and show, how much money do you need to start up your business? Where is that coming from? Is it from an owner's investment, a bank loan, a line of credit, maybe an angel investor? And then how are you going to pay that back? Which comes through your revenue forecast. So all the different services, goods, products that you sell, we kind of break those down, understand the nature of the customers that you'll have coming in. We would want to identify what's the average customer spend in your business or at your store, and how many of those customers come in every day, every week, so on and so forth. We can really break it down into the small details. Profit and loss projections. The next three are kind of formal financial statements that we'll create for you. And this is kind of bank lender speak. So this is how they process their numbers on their end. So we take that data and then put it into a profit and loss statement, a cash flow statement, to make sure that you're flowing with cash at all times, not stuck somewhere for a couple weeks with no incoming revenue and bills to pay on the other end. And then a balance sheet to kind of show the overall assets and liabilities of the company. And then the break-even analysis is a really great tool. And that's something to kind of even explore, even if you're not writing a business plan at this time, is just to understand what it takes to operate your business, what you need to sell just to cover those operating expenses, and then what you need to sell on top of that to make any profit. We've got a really great template that Dave worked on for that, and it breaks it down to like what you need to sell per day, per month, per year. Very, very helpful. You can also use it for kind of scenario planning. Say, oh, is it worth it for me to hire another employee? Well, let's see how much more sales I would need to make to cover that employee. And so this is where the business plan comes to life, even after you're applying for funding. It's the daily kind of action of running the business. Here's kind of an example of what we put together for you and then would send to a bank. So we will kind of extract these numbers, one from the business plan and two from our conversations in one-on-one coaching sessions together. This is what a sources and uses page would look like. showing kind of where all the money is coming from up here. They're totaling $11,000, and then they are spending that down here. And this is how it's broken up into different categories of expenses. Here's a revenue forecast. This is for, it looks like a seamstress or something. So ready to wear clothes, maybe it's a retail shop or custom made items. And then a really simple profit and loss projection. So it's showing their revenue coming in the top here and what it cost for them to make those products. And then here's their operating expenses every month, taxes, and then it's showing the profit at the end of the year. These statements are very common statements, but it's not necessary for you to, go to college and become a CPA to read the documents. We're happy to help you interpret them, talk through them. And if a bank is saying, hey, can we see your profit and loss statement for the last 3 years? That might sound like a foreign language to you, right? So you may come to the SBDC and say, hey, the bank's asking me for this now. What do I do? And so we'll help you and guide you through the information that you need to get for them. I do that all the time with folks that are going through the bank lending process. I just had 2 emails in my inbox today. Hey, they're asking for this now. Okay, well, let's find this information. We'll put it together in the format that the bank would like to see, and then we'll send it along. So we're right there with you during this process, because it could be intimidating maybe if you're not familiar with the lingo. And also numbers and financial statements aren't necessarily something that everyone just knows how to do. So we want to be a support to you and help you in that way. This is another example of a cash flow projection, just showing down here at the bottom, the ending balance. That's what you need to look at here to say, okay, there's not a time where this business is going into the negative, where they wouldn't be able to make a loan payment, for example, or pay their rent. That's a safety measure that the bank's going to look at to say, okay, we feel safe lending to this business for their loan. Here's one version of a break-even analysis, but we've got other templates to use. This is just kind of the version that we would send forward to a banker for their assessment. And then the big piece, in order for us to make the financial projections, we have to make what we call critical assumptions. And so it's a way to justify all the numbers that we put on this paper. Why will you be making the sales that we say that you're making? Why do we think this is a true statement, right? And so the critical assumptions come into play there. They justify the numbers that we're saying will happen. It's kind of like telling the story through the numbers. It can detail the seasonality of your business, which makes it even the more real and believable, right? It has like other supporting details. For example, oh, my labor cost is at this percentage because this is how I break down my staffing week to week, right? Where I have a manager on Fridays and Saturdays, but then I am the manager as the owner the rest of the days of the week, something like that. We want to really explain in real life scenarios what's happening with these numbers that we're putting on the paper. Also, it explains why your business is where it is financially. Why have you grown this much in the first year? Why do we expect this much growth to happen over the next few years? And that goes back to our research around the industry and all of the other kind of data that we've put into that business plan already. So the critical assumptions are kind of our end of the work for putting together financial projections to make sure that it just sounds like a realistic story that is sustainable and safe for a bank to lend to. Other documents that you can prepare for a bank that can kind of strengthen your application. Letters of intent are huge, and customer contracts. So if you're applying because you need more inventory, right? And you already have 5 new customers that are ready to purchase from you when you have this new inventory, that's like guaranteed sales right there. So we can show the bank, yes, when the business gets this loan, they will be making this much more money from these 5 customers right here. And this is how much they're going to order. That's a very strong statement for supporting your sales. If you are a new business and you are opening a brick and mortar, they will often want to see a draft of your lease so they can review and make sure it seems safe and secure to them. Personal financial statements. So they look at your finances as a whole, as an individual and as a business owner. And that kind of gives them a holistic view of your total debt to income ratio. Like I mentioned earlier, resume is very helpful to submit. And then you'll also need to submit tax returns. So those are some documents that you can work on gathering while we also are working on writing a business plan together. I do want to reiterate or iterate that writing a business plan is not something that's going to happen on a long weekend or a Saturday afternoon. It's going to be like 6 to 8 weeks of dedicated time that you're spending going back into each section and editing and creating new, better information, updating, so on and so forth, and then meeting with me or another coach in our team to then edit and smooth out all the details before we would present it to a lender. So the timing, it takes a while, right? And you want it to take a while because that means you're doing it right and you're doing your due diligence all around. So that's the importance of that timing. Some people I think might get a little flustered after a couple meetings, but it really does pay off in the end to do that long-term dedicated work on a business plan. And then you have it for life, right? You're never going to have to write the whole thing again. I promise, unless you start a new business. But you're going to be able to go into different sections and update things. You'll learn new lessons along the way while you're running your business and then realize, oh, okay, this actually works way better if I do it like this instead of how I said I would do it in my business plan. Then you can update that. So then in a couple of years when you're doing really great and you need to apply for loan to expand, you've already had those things updated. And that's why you want to keep it fresh and new and active at all times. We've got different business plan templates for you all to work on. We also have another software program or interface program that you can use called Live Plan. I know folks have played around with ChatGPT for business plans. There's a lot of really good, useful information that you can get from many different outlets for writing a business plan, and I want them all to be tools for you to use. And then we are, again, another tool for you to use to then be able to apply and be successful in getting funded. Does anyone have any questions? Maybe one in the chat.
Just a thumbs up, Claire.
Oh, great.
So here's a question for you. What would you recommend? Like, you got your plan and stuff like that. There's some prep that you need to do personally before you start applying for loans too. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So there's some funding criteria that a bank looks at before you're approved for a loan, and we call it the 5 C's of credit. So those include character, kind of looking at how you run your finances, anything that were to pop up on a credit pull or something, or oh, you haven't paid taxes. We need to make sure this is all taken care of beforehand. Another is your credit score. So making sure that's typically about a 680 or above is what a bank is looking for, but you can always go on to one of the credit pullers and kind of see where you stand right now without doing a hard credit pull. And then next couple of months, pull it from another one to see if you've made any improvements. So making sure you're up to date on that. Another is collateral. So needing to have enough collateral to cover the total amount of the loan. This often comes in the form of real estate. It could come in the form of equipment. If your business needs to purchase equipment, that can stand up for collateral at times. And that's another kind of question that we'll kind of dive into in your coaching calls is kind of where can that come from and what creative solutions can we help you find if you just don't have that collateral, right? You'll need to have an owner investment. The bank wants to see that you are equally, not dollar for dollar, but equally invested in the business. And so being able to invest about 10%, 20% into the business in cash shows that you've got skin in the game. You're not just kind of playing around with other people's money. You are very dedicated and focused and sincere about the business. And so that owner investment, that's when I always like to start off with, hey, if as we're writing the business plan, as we're getting these projections together, you need to have this, dollar amount in your head that you're setting aside to be able to have the money when the time comes to invest in your business. And that can take people time to plan for. So those 5 C's of credit are, and then plus the business plan and financial projections are kind of the criteria that the bank uses to assess whether someone's ready and able to be approved for a bank loan.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, and there are some criteria that will make it really hard for you to get a loan. Like if you just had a recent bankruptcy, that may prevent you from accessing capital for a while until you kind of work through all that. So
another thing to know is that we on the, forward facing, we talk to business owners and potential new business owners all day, but on the other end for us is that we also talk to lenders all day. So we want to know what loan products they have out there and different options there are for folks that are in any type of situation. Like you said, Dave, if you have a bankruptcy or if your credit is lower or maybe you don't have the collateral. So we try and keep our eyes and ears open for the different programs that are created by banks and other funding institutions to help support small businesses. Yeah.
What, like if someone wants to your help to with a business plan, I mean, what type of information would you like them to have ready for you before you guys meet the first go round?
Yeah, great question. I would say if you're in business already, if you could have your streams of revenue easily identified, that would be a great first step to be able to say, I sell, food and beverage, I do caterings, and I do private dinners or something like that. Or say you're a retail space that you do children's clothing and toys and also rent out the space for birthday parties, something, so that we can kind of organize your sales in that way. That's very helpful. Being able to have a list of your monthly operating costs, even if it's not in a formal template like a profit and loss, that's okay. But just being able to identify monthly what you're paying to stay open and operate. I think those are the two biggest pieces that are great to be able to have up front. And then if you're a new business, not even that. If you're a new business, I just want you to be ready and willing to do homework as assigned. So
Right. Yeah.
go find out how much you might be paying for water and utilities or what have you.
Yeah. Let's see. Rolanda says, will the general business plan work for starting a consulting business and or neighborhood association?
I think it would be great. I could think this template that we have, it's a Word document and we can share it with everyone after the call too. It's very comprehensive. And so I've done a business planning workshop where the nonprofit organization that was hosting it ended up sitting in on the class because they wanted to use it too, right? Because it just touches on kind of every facet of your business. And it's going to make you think through all those pieces that you need to have in place. So yeah, I think it would be great for consulting or neighborhood association. There may be, and this is true for any industry too, There may be sections that just don't apply to you, and that's totally fine. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It's just not going to work, right? But use what you can out of it, absolutely, because I think there's some merit to it. And then the other question, the P&L should be made by a CPA, or can we make our own? For our purposes, we can make our own. There may be a certain point in time where you need to have it professionally prepared by a CPA, to submit for taxes or for a formal bank loan. But for projections and such, we can work through together to come up with your profit and loss statement.
Yeah. The operative word here is planning. We're not doing taxes, we're doing planning.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are planning a business, you're kind of building a business model, and then you're checking your assumptions with the numbers,
Right.
and you do that through like the different financial reports that we would use. So that was a good question.
Yeah.
Good question, Wendy. So, yeah. Well, I don't see any other questions popping in. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was very informative, I thought.
My email's here. If you all end up having questions later on, you're welcome to do the QR code, and you can schedule a calendar Zoom call with me on my calendar. And then Janet always sends these out to everyone that's attended. So you'll get the slides, and then we can also send that business plan document along with it, with the replay. So then feel free to sign up and make a call with me or Dave or Rhonda so that you can kind of get started on the business plan, because we don't want you to just feel like you just have to sit there and type at a computer,
Right.
not knowing what to do, right? So
here's the thing that I've noticed. Well, that we've worked with so many banks, we kind of know what they want to see. So if you haven't done a business plan, or you haven't started your business, launched a business, or you haven't accessed, capital, or had to make a pitch to a bank, don't go in there flying blind. We can kind of help coach you into how to do this, and what to put on paper, and what it looks like, and what they like to see. Because a business plan is planning your business, but it's also almost a marketing tool that you use to market your deal to funders, whether they're investors or a bank. So
yeah,
you have to tell your story.
exactly. That character piece of the 5 C's of credit shines through in your business plan. How well have you prepared? How well can you describe your business? How do you present yourself in your business? All of those things.
Yeah. What you don't want to do is go to ChatGPT and say, write me a business plan, and then hand it to a banker. I mean,
They will know, they'll
they
smell
will
it a
know
mile
right off
away.
the bat. Yeah, because they
Yep.
see thousands of them too. We can spot it in a second.
Yeah,
You're
it can
not
be a
fooling
tool,
anybody.
but it cannot be a replacement.
Yeah, you can't fool them. So,
Yes.
well, all right, folks. Well, this kind of wraps up another Toolkit Tuesday. Claire, thank you so much for sharing all this. Again, reach out to any of us, Claire, me, or Rhonda here at the Louisville Small Business Development Center. Just hover over that QR code there. Thanks for asking so many good questions. Really appreciate all that and engagement here. So I hope you found it helpful. And, business plans are just one small part of what we do here at the Louisville Small Business Development Center. We're here to help. Don't go it alone. You can schedule one-on-one meetings with any of us, and we're happy to hear from you. So, Claire, thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for attending, and hope you have a great rest of your week.
Yeah. And Janet, thanks for driving the ship as always.
Sure thing. Everybody, hold on for a quick survey at the end.
Okay.
Great.
Excellent. We will see you guys next week on another Toolkit Tuesday. Have a good Tuesday, everyone.